Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know by now I review many photographic, audio and video related products, and the two I'm looking at is the new Sony ZV-E10, which is being sold as a vlogging camera. I would much prefer the terminology to be a content creator's camera, and I'll explain why in a minute, because it is a fantastic camera for content creation, and I'm comparing that with the Fujifilm X-A7, because this also is sold as a vlogging camera, and this is definitely more of a vlogging camera than a content creation camera, and that's the Fuji X-A7. I've actually got fitted with it the XF 35mm lens. I have got a kit lens with it, the 16-50 plastic fantastic kit lens, but the optical quality is great. Please don't be put off by the fact that it is plastic. The optics are great, you know, where obviously with this lens it isn't plastic fantastic and the optical quality is outstanding. The X-A7 is, I wouldn't say considerably cheaper. It's about 100 to 150 quid cheaper body only, and about 100 quid cheaper with its kit lens. So effectively I think they're both very similarly priced, very similarly, I can't even say that, they're priced close to each other. And again, I've got on the Sony the kit lens that you can get with it, the 16-50 power zoom kit lens that Sony made. Again, it's not regarded as a particularly good lens, but I get I'll show you some of the results actually, but I get really good images off this kit lens. Now the comparisons, the Fuji's got a much nicer screen. It's a big 3.5 inch 16:9 screen. It's going to come up with saying my SD card is not corrupt but is protected. That's the 16:9 3.5 inch screen on the Fuji. It's a lot easier to see, it's brighter. So if that's important, I would definitely go with the Fuji. Now, the thing is, you are reliant on the screen with both cameras, and that's why another reason why I think they're very similar. Neither of them have a viewfinder, so you are completely reliant on the screen. The Fuji screen is much nicer to see in daylight, both for video and for stills, than what the Sony is. So that's the score on the Fuji. It's a really, really nice screen. Also, the Fuji scores as far as usability. With the Sony, you have to work around the fact it hasn't got a PASM dial, where the Fuji has got your traditional PASM dial for selecting aperture priority, shutter priority, your video modes and what have you. That's on the top there. It's also got the front control dial on the control dial on the front, and a control dial on the rear. I've set the rear dial for exposure compensation and the front one for selecting the aperture if you're in shutter aperture priority, the shutter speed if you're in shutter priority, etc. And that is awesome. Also, with the Fuji's, there's a manual aperture ring around the lens, so you can use that for adjusting your aperture, or you can just set it to A, automatic position, and use the control dials on the camera body. The Sony is a lot more convoluted to use from that point of view. It has got your control dial on the back, which is great. So when you're in, say, shutter priority, you can use that for adjusting your shutter speed, and that's what I do. So I'll use that for adjusting the shutter speed, and as you can see, the shutter speed is moving as it happens to be in shutter priority at the moment. And then I've got this dial on the back here set for exposure compensation. So it's almost as good as having your two control dials, but not quite as good. Now, as far as connections are concerned, the Sony scores, because the Sony has got both on the side here. If you're into video, it's got your microphone jack and headphone jack. So it's got the headphone jack is at the bottom, but the microphone jack is at the top of the camera here. So you've got your mic jack on the top and your headphone jack at the bottom, HDMI, USB-C. Brilliant. And as a video camera, the Sony's absolutely your better bet. Absolutely no question about that whatsoever. As far as connections are concerned, the Fuji has got on the side here, it's got a microphone jack on the side there, and it's also got on the other side your HDMI and your USB jacks on the side. But this microphone jack is a 2.5mm mic jack as opposed to 3.5mm, which is traditional on virtually every camera. It does come with the adapter, but no doubt, like me, you'll lose the adapter. But no headphone jack for monitoring the audio. So the Sony definitely scores from that point of view. Also, there's a 10-minute in 4K, 10-minute recording limit on the Fuji, where on the Sonys, there is no record limit. It will keep on going until the battery empties or the SD card fills up. So if you're into video, I would 100% recommend the Sony over the Fuji. But if you only want to get a few clips here and there, then the Fuji's completely fine. It's absolutely fine. The Fuji has got a built-in flash, which is activated by just flicking the switch on the side. And it is bounceable, so you can bounce it off a white card or you can bounce it off a ceiling. It's not a very powerful flash, but it's great as a fill-in flash. The Sony has no flash because they've used the space wisely, I think, for the microphone, because it's a 3-capsule microphone. This one is pretty good, and it does come with the wind muff for protecting the modules in a windy condition, and it comes with that, and that is great. Also with the Sony, it's got the Sony multi-interface shoe, so you can plug in your Sony microphones that don't require cables, and they're digital microphones, so you get a really good sound quality, and it takes the microphone takes the power from the camera battery, so you don't have to worry about that either. So you know, it's very much designed as a content creator's camera, and that is why I said at the very beginning, they advertise it as an ideal vlogging camera. They should be advertising it as the ideal content creation camera. And the Fuji is correct, it's advertised as a vlogging camera. Well, it is the ideal vlogging camera. The Sony is light enough, but you know, it's got your record button on the top with the Sonys, which is great. And also you have, which I really do like about the Sonys, you have, let's turn it on, a red box on the screen that shows you that it is recording. You can clearly see that from, let's go into video, right. So when I hit record, you can clearly see the, I hope you can see that, the red box around the frame of a monitor. You don't get that on the Fuji, which is a real shame, but you can clearly see from a distance that is recording. The Panasonics do that. I think Panasonic pretty much came up with the idea of that. And the fact that it's got a big red record button on the top. It's got various other functions. It's got product showcase mode for video, which is great. As far as batteries are concerned, very similar. The W126 battery the Fuji takes, that's a third-party battery, very cheap and easy to get hold of. You know, and the Sony battery is the FW50 battery. It's a shame they didn't use the Z mount batteries, but again, the body would have to be quite a bit bigger, so they've gone back to using the little FW50 batteries. That's fine, just keep a couple in your pocket and that'd be fine. SD card, one SD card slot in both cameras, and that just slots in where the battery is, and I find that annoying. It's not easy to get them in and out, but that is the, you know, SD card slot on the Sony. The Fuji is exactly the same, it's just by the battery. And the screen on the Sony is not quite so big. I think it might be slightly smaller than 3" actually. It isn't a 16:9 aspect ratio, but it's a nice screen, but it's not as bright in daylight as what the Fuji is. So I would, you know, as I said earlier, the Fuji for photographs is better, but you know, neither of them have image stabilization built in. The Sony has got electronic image stabilization, which is okay, but it is more reliant on the image stabilization that's in the lenses. The same would apply with the Fuji. You want to be careful of your shutter speeds with a Fuji and with a Sony, unless you're using lenses with image stabilization built in. For example, this lens hasn't got in-lens image stabilization. So you might want to select a slightly faster shutter speed so you don't get, you know, blurred images. And, you know, video content, yeah, they both could do 4K, but the Sony, as I said earlier, would be the one to go for. It's got no video record limit, and you can run it off USB power block, which is really handy if you're doing long-term filming like I do in the studio here. I've got A7Cs that will run off a USB block, although with the Z-mount batteries, they last for ages anyway, so you don't need to worry about it. And the ZV-E10, which I'm running over here, I'm running them off a USB block because they've got piddly little batteries in, and the batteries would have died long by now. So I've done 2 or 3 videos today. They would have died long by now. So I'm powering them off a USB block. Just so you know what kit I'm using for filming today, I've got one of my A7Cs over here getting the close-up shots with the f1.8 85mm lens on. My other A7C there has got the FE 35mm f1.8 lens on, but I've got that in crop sensor mode because it was a little bit too wide. I've got my other ZV-1 here picking up the close-up shots, you know, of the cameras. So yeah, there we go. Now, as far as image quality, I'm going to quickly go through image quality. I would prefer you to look at my Flickr page. There'll be a link in the description to my Flickr page, and you can see the images taken with the ZV-E10 and the Fuji X-A7 and many other cameras that I've tested. It's much easier to see them on Flickr than it is on my YouTube channel here. If you're more into photography with a wee bit of video, then I would probably steer towards the Fujis, to be quite honest, because it's very light, very, very light. Certainly if you're looking at a B cam, it's extremely light, really, really nice to use. But if you're more into video and you want to do content creation for YouTube, then I would highly recommend the Sony, definitely over and above the Fuji. So in a nutshell, at the end of this video, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm coming to the end of the video and I'm trying to say the Sony, if you want to take stills, really nice stills, and be happy with the stills, then the Sony ZV-E10 is a great travel camera. But if you want to produce video, then go with the ZV-E10. The lens range is brilliant. It also works with Sony's little tripod grip. Here it is. I've got this configured with it. I don't know. I know it's all turned off, but yeah, I've got this configured with it. Works great with that. It's Bluetooth, works really, really well with that. So yeah, video, the Sony, stills, probably the Fuji. But value for money, they're both exceptional value for money, although the Fuji is actually cheaper. So yeah, there we go. That's my thoughts on the Fujifilm X-A7 and the Sony ZV-E10. Thanks for watching. I hope you found that video useful. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and hit the like button if you like the content of my videos. It really does help me grow the channel. Really, really appreciate that. So don't forget to take a look at my Flickr page so you can actually see what the image quality of these cameras and lenses is really like. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.